exactly 7 p.m. I would like to open the meeting of the June 28th Hyde Park Planning Board. Take one moment and just remind everybody, beware the exit signs. Michael Dupree, the chair, is not here this evening, as are unfortunately a couple other people, all for good reasons though. So we do have a quorum of the 4 people that you see in front of you. And with that, I would like to salute our flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We have a relatively short agenda tonight, but we will be opening the public hearing for comments on Dollar General. We're very early in this cycle in some respects, and really much of this deals with how this property can be improved and brought up to code. So I think probably we'll talk to Pete Cetera, our town engineer, on this. We want to let him speak first, and then we'll have a public hearing.
Do we want to have the applicants first come up and make, a general presentation?
Sure.
For the audience?
I know you've been in contact with them, so that works fine.
We can go ahead, and start some of our comments?
Sure.
Okay.
Good evening. My name is Todd Hamula, H-A-M-U-L-A, and I work for a company called Zaremba Group, and we are the developer representing Dollar General, and we are presenting the project tonight for the public hearing. I do have a number of boards. I prefer to stand, but I think last time I did this, there was a microphone that I could use when I walked around so that I could still be heard for the viewers that are viewing this later.
Is this thing on? Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Got it?
We're good.
We're good.
We should be good.
I actually figured it out this time. Took the mute off.
No.
No? Do you need a pointer?
We're fully
You
equipped
can
up
almost
here.
sit.
Okay, the site is on Violet Avenue, also known as 9G. It's a 1.35 acre parcel, and it's kind of got a wedge shape to it in the back.
Yeah. Can you maybe turn just a little to
Barbara,
Barbara?
Barbara, can you help?
Can you help direct them?
Front wall is going to be depicting the picture. Well, then the public can't see
Yeah,
it.
then the public can't see it.
This camera up here. But it needs to be directed so that the audience can see it as well.
Problem is, we need the public who are here tonight, too.
Even just a little bit would be good.
Okay.
I mean, they do it normally. We don't open the public hearing?
No, we won't wait after Pete talks.
Sorry.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. So it's, as I was saying, it's a 1.35 acre parcel on Violet Avenue. To the north of the site, along this property line here, are two property owners. Doxy's, which I believe is an auto-related business, is on the front. And then there's more of a salvage business in the back. And 2 different property owners. On the south is Carl Lawson, and he is in effect selling the property, this parcel, to us, and he resides in this house right there. It has an access point also on Violet Avenue. And then across the street to the east is Venture Lake subdivision, and it's across the street also on Violet Avenue. The current zoning is East Park Business District. We're proposing to build a Dollar General building. It's a 9,100 square foot building with an entrance on the front corner. Zoning encourages that the building be placed up on the site towards the street, which we have done in the site plan arrangement. There's one curb cut or one entrance to the property, which then accesses a parking field of 29 parking spaces. There are 11 parking spaces proposed with handicap spaces along the building and 18 parking spaces on the north side of the parking lot. There is an area to at the rear of the parking lot where the delivery vehicle would enter, so that it would enter the site and then it would back in and kind of sit in this area here while it offloaded before it would leave the site. So there's no circulation proposed around the entire building, just on the two sides. On the back of the building, there is a dumpster enclosure, which is really hidden and concealed from the public. There's above ground propane for the gas for the building for the heat. And then along the south property line, we are proposing a fence because the property just south of us is residential, and so that way we can properly screen this property from the residential property here. The vegetation along the back of the property is meant to remain. There's an existing wetland on the back of the property, and that will also remain. And so then the front of the site will be cleared, and you know, really there's more growth on the front, and then there's a big open area in the middle. As I represented at an earlier meeting several years ago, the site had been filled with miscellaneous construction debris, mainly bricks, cinder blocks, asphalt, concrete. We were aware of that. We've done several soil tests to encounter this material. It goes anywhere between 4 or 5 feet deep, so we know that material exists. The plan is that we would excavate that material, crush it on site, and reuse it beneath the parking lot versus hauling it off, which is an expense. But that also part of the design of the site, which makes this site, I guess, a little challenging, is it literally is in kind of like the bottom of of the adjacent properties, which kind of drain towards it. So it's almost kind of like in a bowl. And and so what we're going to be doing is in the parking lot, we'll be adding about 12 inches of stone, which will act as a detention basin for the stormwater. So when it rains, the stormwater will enter the parking lot, and go underneath it, and it will be held there, and then ultimately it will flow and discharge back into this wetland area here, and then it will continue its flow further west. There is an existing 8-inch pipe that allows the water to flow out of this area here and to continue further westward. That's pretty much the main challenge of the site, and I know we've discussed this. I know the engineers have been hard at work at trying to really design this and to kind of be on the same page with it. We're also aware that after conversations with the seller, that there's a number of different things going along this north property edge. There's a swale that has been constructed, which essentially takes all the runoff from these two properties into the swale and conveys it also to the west, really bypassing the wetland. Very little of this water comes onto the site, but we are making accommodations that what does come out of the site does go into our system, and then it exits the back of the site. And we do have comments that we've received from from the town engineer, and we feel that we can adequately address those as it relates to the stormwater front. There's a monument sign that we're proposing right here at the entrance, and I'll show you in a minute here. There's also 2 building elevation signs on the building, and that would also go through a separate process to receive approval for the sign permit. My understanding is if there's any variances that they'd like to achieve for those for those signs, they would handle them at that time, so we're not addressing signage tonight. There's no off-site improvements that we are proposing with the project. Very early on, we met with DOT based upon the low traffic flow into these types of facilities. No lane improvements are necessary, and we confirmed that with the DOT early on in the project.
Okay.
Well, he's still gonna go through some other things.
This is the building as you're looking at it from the street, so this is the entrance. The entrance is truly on the corner of the building. There are two entry features. This side right here will be facing the street, and there's a sign here, and then there's also a sign that faces the parking lot. So then this, of course, is the curb cut. The materials that we're proposing on the building are vinyl siding on top, a stone base around the two sides of the building, and then it does wrap that corner on the south side. And then we've got these brick pilasters that happen every so often. What we've also done with the building is we've stepped the building, the roof line, so that it's not a flat roof line all the way back. It is stepped, so it does add for a little bit of interest. And then by adding those brick pilasters where those steppings occur, also tries to highlight how we've broken up the building facade.
Mm-hmm.
At the last meeting, there was a question about addressing the south corner of the building, and initially we had addressed it by really turning the corner this amount by just this bay, and what we've done is we've extended it a little bit further. On that side of the site, there's big trees. There's a lot of heavy vegetation. I mean, nobody can really predict the future and really what's going to happen with that adjacent lot. The property owner doesn't have any plans to change the zoning or to change the use, but you can't predict the future. So what we propose is to turn the corner a little further down that elevation. It is still pretty well hidden from the street for motorists that are driving northbound, and you won't be able to really view that side of the building. But maybe in the wintertime, or if trees do die or they do go away, then this helps to address the treatment of that building facade as it turns the corner. We are not planning on having more of a decorative facade on the back of the building. The existing foliage on the site at the kind of on the western side of the site will handle the the view of the building, and that's the view. That's this end of the building that you see up here. So that's where you can see that the roof line is not being addressed, similar to the other sides of the building. There were a couple of comments that were in the engineer's report that we received. We will go through and address those comments on the on the resubmittal, so that next time we're back in front of the planning board, we can explain how we're going to accommodate them. There is one that I'd like to I guess maybe throw on the table here, and just for dialogue, and it's regarding the dumpster enclosure. I saw that there was a comment regarding screening the dumpsters with a masonry enclosure, and just really would like to ask the question, because it is in the back of the building, it's really in the back corner, that side of the site is being screened already with, I think, what's called a stockade fence, but it's more of a screen fence, 6 foot tall. We were planning on enclosing the dumpsters in a same material. A masonry dumpster enclosure really is not visible. I mean, it doesn't, and it's not going to be seen by very many people at all based on its proximity on the site plan. So I just asked that, maybe some consideration for the enclosure for the dumpster out of the same material of that screen fence for the property owner to the south, is taken into account, because that's what we would like to propose versus a masonry enclosure that I think is going to get lost in that back corner. All the other comments, I think that we can we can address, we can certainly talk about them at the meeting here tonight, if we'd like to get into some of those comments. And then we certainly will respond with a response letter and make changes to the plans between now and the next meeting.
Okay. Do you have any more, or is that it?
Well, I have the other sides of the building, but I really think the rendering shows it, showed it pretty well. And then I had the aerial with the site plan overlay. I mean, that pretty much concludes the presentation that I was preparing to make tonight. And then I think that we can probably address some of the questions and maybe some of the public comments.
All right. I think we'll start with our consultant, Pete.
Todd, maybe you could just give the planning board and everybody else an update as to what you're doing with the Dutchess County Health Department in terms of, the septic. I had said in my comment letter, and I sent you guys a separate email that, again, perhaps you've been in contact with them and working, right along with them. But, there are some concerns with the site in terms of, the soil really doesn't have any kind of perk. And, I know from past experience working with them that, they have some horizontal offsets to underground stormwater detention facilities from your septic system. And normally, it's been about 50 feet. So, the concern is that you're proposing a septic system that's really right adjacent to your parking area, which is where your underground detention is. And then also, if you have to provide for a swale where the septic is, to make sure they intercept runoff from the adjoining parking lot and convey it in the back. I'm just wondering how all those things are going to kind of work together. But again, maybe you've been in contact with them, and do you have any information from them? Any like submittals that have been made? Any response letters? From them to your submittals, or maybe you could just give us an update on that.
I'm going to turn this over to the engineer because I know he's got some information on this.
Okay.
Christopher Longo from Ingalls & Associates, the site engineer on the project. So basically, to answer the question on the septic, we have been in contact with DOH. They were originally out on site and witnessed the test pits, which were conducted, as Todd had mentioned, that kind of logged the prior fill that was done on site. So the understanding has been that as is going on for the rest of the site, the area of the septic would be pulled up and replaced, and then there would be testing done to confirm that during construction that material is adequate. As far as the setback from the proposed area where there'd be the stone reservoir, we have actually reached back out to them again to confirm. We haven't formally submitted yet, but we have consulted with their office on some possible design options there, one of which we plan to submit to them and to Peter shortly is some sort of impermeable liner between the septic area and the stone reservoir for the pavement. We can't attain that the desirable separation setback, but so whether it be with an HDPE liner or some sort of impermeable clay liner, we can certainly work the details out with Peter in the department.
Well, it's not up, to me. I mean, it's fine as long as you work it out with them. It's just that we'll need something, as I put in, I put in my letter, I put it in the email to you guys, that, because there's some issues there, it's not like it's a cut and dried, it's a normal, septic system. The perks are good, the deep tests are good. There's some things that you're going to have to work out with the health department. We would just need something from the health department, not a final approval or anything, but just something from them that says that, whatever, based upon some preliminary information that you guys have submitted, that it appears that they'll be able to consider an approval of a septic system at this site. we would just need something to hang our hat on before we proceed with a seeker determination, because obviously, you know, a septic system is part of an environmental impact. So, you know, we don't need anything final approval from them, but we need something from them that we can at least hang our hat on,
Certainly.
you know, before we
Yep.
can make a seeker determination.
And I have expressed that to our contact at the Department of Health, and he understands that.
Who are you working with down there? Napoli, Jim
Yes,
Napoli?
Jim Napoli, yep. So we have conveyed that to him, that we're just looking for basically concurrence at this point, and then we would hope to get the formal approval and approval of the construction drawings after the
Okay.
seeker and after the municipal
Okay.
approval.
So you understand what we need, or, you know, the town needs, just in order to proceed with a seeker determination?
Yep.
Okay. Todd, do you have any kind of a conceptual approval letter from the State Department of Transportation? Typically, we require at least a conceptual letter that says, you know, we've reviewed the site, you know, we don't have an issue with it. Yes, they have to go hand in, you know, detailed plans on the entrance, but, you know, conceptually, we don't have a problem with the access, and, you know, we're okay with it, you know, subject to you guys handing in plans. That's something that we typically get, you know, once again, before the town would consider a seeker determination. So, I mean, it seems like you've already reached out to them.
Yes, they were originally on site back about a year or so ago, and we had, subsequent to your letter, again, we have reached out to DOT for the same type of letter that we're hoping to receive from DOH. Again, DOT's approval is more construction permitting, but we have asked for their concurrence, and we've sent them the plan, so we're awaiting their
And
feedback.
they know what we look for. I mean,
Right.
I think that they do it, you know, for most towns. So it's not something that they're not, you know, familiar with, so.
Right, so
Okay,
they-
so you're gonna deal with those two things, and that's something for, you know, our seeker determination.
Right.
And then, you know, Todd has obviously touched on the drainage. That's been, you know, the major issue here. It's, you know, it's been an issue for this site for, you know, a long time. We did go out, I don't know, it was June the 10th or something like that, and we had met with the adjoining property owner to the north, who's, I think, Jim Royce? Jim Royce's there. And, you know, we met with Jim because, you know, I kind of have an understanding of this area. There's been a long history of drainage issues, not specifically on this property, but just in that whole area in general, as the drainage flows in the back to the west, and then it flows to the north, and it goes under Broward Boulevard. There's just been, you know, a lot of issues in the past. And Jim, you know, we worked with Jim, you know, through the past on, you know, some of those issues. Jim's installed on his own property. He's installed some additional culverts on his property that have, you know, helped. So, you know, we had met with Jim because I wanted to get a better understanding of what happened on, or not what happened, what is happening on Jim's property as it relates to this property. And, you know, as Todd said, and as we saw in the field, there is a berm that pretty much runs, you know, the whole length of this property, which there isn't any water from this property that would be discharging on the property towards the north. So, and we did find in the field, when we had walked in the back, we did find the 8-inch pipe. And Todd, if I could just borrow your, you know, your pointer there a minute, please. I know Herb's probably gonna come up and ask me what happened to the one they gave us that, like, at Christmas, but I lost it. I loved it too. So, you know, the 8-inch pipe is over, you know, in this area, as Todd said. So what we've asked them to do is, you know, to uncover it good, get the inverts on it, and we also asked them to take some additional survey information in this back area, because this 8-inch pipe outlets to a very small swale on Mr. Lawson's property that ends up going into the back somewheres. We didn't really walk the whole way, but we can definitely see where the swale is. And then some point over here on the west, it'll intersect with the other major swale, with the other swale that runs north. So, you know, we feel that as long as they can model, you know, the site, model the underground stormwater detention area, which will end up going into, you know, the wetlands here, which will provide some additional storage. They may need to do, and again, they're gonna, you know, be working on it, they may need to do some additional berming in here to create some additional volume. But again, they're gonna, you know, be working on that. So as long as the 8-inch pipe is modeled where the where the post-development flow, so after the building is built, that, you know, the runoff through this pipe that goes down the swale on Mr. Lawson's property, that the post-development runoff does not exceed what currently goes there today. So they have to go model the site without, you know, the building and the parking area and all that stuff. Pre-existing, they get like a flow rate out of this thing once it's stored in the wetlands through the 8-inch pipe, and then that's their, like, benchmark. So they have to design either an underground storage system or some, you know, above-ground storage here, whatever has to be done on here to make sure that, you know, the flow rate after construction does not exceed what's currently going there, like today. And I think they'll be able, like, to do it. You know, they may need to provide some more, you know, like detention under the parking lot, but that's something that they'll have to, you know, deal with. Now, Monday, Victoria and I and Bob, when we met, you know, we're going to also need, and not only for us, but it's also good for you as the owner of this property, and for Mr. Lawson, the owner of his property, to have an easement, you know, a discharge easement over the existing swale on his property to the back point of where it intersects, you know, his property line. And that'll just be good to protect you, protect him, and any future owners. So,
Future owners on notice.
right. So, you know, I was comfortable after our walk in the field, you know, with Jim, that there isn't any water from this property that's going to sneak over on, you know, Jim's property that we didn't, like, know about. It's very well blocked off here, and I'm sure Jim probably have some comments, you know, on that. So, you know, we made some other comments. Most of them, you know, are general, you know, housekeeping comments. There's nothing that's, you know, like a major ordeal. Again, you know, we're dealing with the storm drainage, which we all know is probably, you know, the biggest issue here. Todd, one thing that I did want to ask you was on the fence on the south. I think you were proposing a wooden fence, like a stockade fence. I mean, those can rot pretty, like, quickly and be damaged. I mean, I suggested, again, it's more up to, you know, the planning board. You know, I suggested some type, you know, of a PVC coated fence that, you know, we know is going to last in some type of a, you know, earth tone color or whatever. But that's really a planning board, you know, decision. So I would leave that to them. But so we have some housekeeping items, and we're just going to have to deal and continue to work on the storm drainage. But I think from when you first came in here, I do think that we're making progress, and based upon, you know, our site meeting, you know, and walking in the back, you know, it seems like it can work. So, but again, you know, the numbers will have to show it.
Sure.
So that's what I have at this time.
Okay. Victoria, what do you have from a legal perspective on this?
Aside from the easement, we're waiting on the additional information that Pete requested in order to complete seeker.
Okay.
We're also within the 30-day period for lead agency responses. It was on June 4th you circulated, and we haven't heard back from anyone yet.
Okay. All right, I guess we'll start off to my right here. Chris, what are your thoughts?
For the drainage in the parking lot, is the idea still to have an impervious asphalt with, like, catch basins that are going to drain into your underground gravel?
Not on the asphalt. We're still going to have 2 catch basins, dry wells that are going to be tied into a perforated pipe that's going to convey the water into the stone subbase. But we have eliminated the pervious pavement so that the water goes through the pavement. So the water will be pitched to these 2 catch basins, which will get it into the pavement, the gravel under the pavement. It'll be easier for Dollar General to maintain. The surface will look like a new parking lot versus and I know that there's plenty of examples around town of pervious pavement, but Dollar General is not comfortable with having pervious pavement in the parking lot.
Okay. And Pete, how do you feel about that discharge from the basins where, like that gravel bed underneath the asphalt's meant to take in water, vertically, not a flow like you're gonna get from a catch basin?
Well, yeah, Chris, that's right. I mean, one thing that we should talk about, and because I know it was done on another site. In fact, it was done at the in the St. James Church parking lot, because actually this is pretty much the same type of system that they have there, and what they did there, and honestly, it's been there for what, 3 years, 4 years, and we've had some pretty significant rainstorms, and and that, huh? Yeah, here and there, yeah. And I mean, that seems to be functioning well. But what they did there, and I was going to ask this anyways, especially for the roof leader pipes, is that, you may want to extend some pipes, 8-inch pipes, whatever, like fingers, perforated fingers out into, the stone so that it can like disperse itself, not just, poke it into the stone at the end and then it could get clogged. So I mean, those are some details that we can talk about, but we probably need to extend some perforated finger pipes out into there just to get it evenly, distributed. But I mean, those are things. But that's a good point.
You feel confident that they can get it to work with that kind of discharge?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
If I could just add a little bit to that, I did take note of your comment there with the additional fingers of perforated pipe, but basically, kind of to explain the kind of crux of this design is that there's the relief at the end of the parking area, basically the tongue, and in topography, so it does drop off. So basically, that outlet pipe is towards the bottom of that stone, so it wouldn't quite fill up entirely. It would go out of that pipe first. So that's how we're providing that relief. So it's not just the ponding, but it also has the outlet a little bit lower.
There's going to be an outlet pipe out of the underground stone detention area, or maybe a couple outlet pipes, so that would end up going back into the wet area there that Todd is pointing to. Because if you walk back there, it's pretty thick now, but I mean there is a pretty good bowl in there. And like I said, they may need to do, a little bit of berming, around that wetland area to create a little bit more storage area. But they have to continue to run the numbers.
My only fear with it was that with the debris that you're going to carry across the impervious surface down into the basins over time, if that would clog up that filtration system, that's really where I was going with it.
I mean, I think, and honestly, I'm sorry, but I don't recall exactly what's on, the drawings, but I think what we have to do, Chris, is make it probably an actual catch basin that's got, a sump in it with, a pipe that's up higher that then would end up.
So you're only putting clean water in
Right,
there.
right. So you have
There is a designed sump in those two basins.
Sump,
Yeah,
right.
there is a designed sump to catch exactly what you're talking about, the debris that might come off of that pavement.
Really?
So that would settle in the center of that basin and not go
I lost
directly
mine,
into
and
that
I'm
outlet
really
pipe.
upset.
Thank you for clarifying
I
that.
took this to a lot of meetings.
That's all.
Okay. Ann?
Thank you. It does sound like the drainage and Department of Health are going to be probably the areas that get the most attention. My questions, you had said that you had turned the corner with the additional treatments, and I can see that, and that looks like that is going to help. I guess I was wishing for something a little more broken up, but I do appreciate that you've done that. On the back of the building, you have the dumpster and the propane tanks. What is the separation between the propane tanks and the dumpsters? And are there going to be do you call those?
Bollards.
Bollards or pylons?
Well, there'll certainly be bollards to protect the propane tank. And the
Right.
reason we're not putting it underground, which is more customary, is because there's rock in that area.
Yeah, it's hard to do. I just ask because the garbage removal trucks sometimes go in at the wrong angles, and next thing you know, and ice, they can slip. So I'm just a little concerned about the proximity.
It's about 40 to 50 feet away from the dumpsters,
Oh,
from
okay.
the dumpster pad area, and it will be bollarded.
Okay.
The preference is to put it underground, but in this case here,
Right.
the area, the topography, the terrain didn't allow for it.
Okay,
Yep, and we didn't want to locate it next to the building and closer to the dumpsters, so we put it away from the building, and it will definitely be protected.
okay,
Okay,
thanks.
thank you, Ann. Jen?
My concerns, basically like everybody else, have always been from the get-go, the drainage. I want to be assured that we're handling the drainage and we're not gonna take any water and put it on other people's property and cause any kind of problems. So I'm gonna be easy as long as the drainage is in good shape.
Understood.
I mean, it's really amazing when you do walk the site, and you have to walk the site to get a full appreciation of how the properties north of us, really where their water goes, and you know, this, and really where this site sits. I mean, this site is really isolated, and there is this natural, it's more of a swale, like a ditch, that separates this site from the properties to the north, and their water goes into that, but we will assure that we will work with the engineer to make sure that all the water from this project won't get into their system. It will
That's
get-
really what I'm looking
it will
for,
get
and it
into our own
has
system.
been from the beginning.
Yep.
The rest of it, like I said, I'm pretty easy.
Thank you, Jen. I guess one of the questions I might have, and I don't know if anyone has addressed whether this will be a sprinkle building, and is there sufficient water pressure? You do understand that there's some water pressure concerns on some of the piping running up through Hyde Park.
Yeah, my understanding is it will not be a sprinkled building. It's below the 10,000 square foot, square footage requirement, so it's not planned to be a sprinkled building. Dollar General, we build these buildings for them in a number of, lots of locations, and they do have a couple different sizes of buildings, and when they do go over that square footage threshold, then you're right, we do need to, per code, to look at sprinkling the building.
Okay, and I did mention, I believe, at the last meeting, this is certainly an area, in fact, we were without power for 2.5 hours in the middle of the night last night, again. So it is an area, I don't know what your final guesses were, solutions were for a generator, and/or would you use propane for it? So that, we still have that as, I think, is an open question.
So I did talk to Dollar General about that specifically, and the response that I got is that they do not have a generator on site for when power failures do occur. They will bring in temporary generators. The response was they have many stores, and that's an expensive proposition to design into this facility.
Okay.
And in cases where where the power, maybe goes out more frequently, they will have, they'll have a contract and they'll have something arranged and sitting and waiting off-site versus having it on-site.
Okay, very good. All right, I think we've gotten all our comments, and I believe it's now appropriate to open the public hearing. Do I have a second?
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, if you gentlemen would like to sit back, and does any member of the public, okay, please come up to the table, state your name so that we can get that in the record.
I'm Jim Reutzey, and I am the adjoining property owner.
Jim, to the north, correct?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
Jim to the north.
Can you spell that, Jim?
It's RAJCZI.
Thank you.
I just put it
And I don't
down.
really have a problem with this project if it's going to be good and good for me. But I'm worried, concerned about the water drain off on my property. And I don't know how they're really going to do it as they have it now. That's what I'm concerned about. there's an idea, maybe I can be told, but I'm really not sure how they're gonna do it. I don't know how this way works here, or whatever, but,
Push the button, there you go, Jim.
yeah, well, see, my property is over here, and where the, here, there's a giant rock wall which they have to go through in order to get the water to the back of the property, and at this time, I don't know how they're gonna do that,
So
so.
they don't have to excavate that, Jim. There is,
There is?
yeah, I mean, after Andy and I
Okay.
left you, there is an 8-inch ductile iron pipe that I assume that Mr. Lawson had put in from that. Now-
Okay.
Now we have,
We're about to,
It goes through the rock wall.
you know, fight, Jim, with our
Through-
little,
Yeah.
thingies here. Where the heck did it go? I'm all over the place here.
okay, well,
Yeah, there it is, right there,
Yeah.
where Todd is.
yeah,
But
really,
there is,
an 8-inch is gonna take all that water from.
well, but again, they have to go and model underground detention. However, I mean, if they can't have enough detention to hold back that water and slowly let it out at a very slow rate so that that 8-inch pipe is not overtaxed, that's what we're asking them, you know, like to do. They
Right.
have to have enough underground storage area and a pipe coming out of that that's small enough to just slowly meter that out so that that 8-inch pipe is never, you know, overtaxed from what it is like today.
I
If they
understand.
if they can make it work, good. If they can't, well,
Well, then
that's-
we have to do it, other issues. That's why I'm
You have to
addressing
deal
this
with other
issue now.
issues.
So that we, you know, before we proceed with this, we get all the facts. That's all I
and
mean.
we are, and we
Right.
will not,
You know,
and we will not.
And you understand, this is a little early in the cycle to go to a public hearing, because normally we would have done a secret determination.
Right.
But we can't until we have the engineering work done
I
here.
have no problem when you,
So-
if you come up with all the information, I welcome it.
And
I
I'll
welcome
share
the
it with
site.
you, Jim.
Yes, I
You know,
welcome
and
the
I'll
site,
share it
But
with
I
you.
just, at this time, I don't think it really, I don't have enough information to make me happy.
Right.
How's that?
And we as a planning board have to depend on the engineers for this one
Yeah,
too.
Yeah.
that's fine with me.
We're not in the feeling we have enough information either, so.
That's good enough for me.
And,
All right.
and honestly, Jim, over the years, you've been very helpful in terms of trying to help, you know, the drainage in
I
that
try,
back.
yes.
So that's why, you know, I reached out to you to make sure that
Yes,
you
you did a fine
understand it.
job.
And, you know, I'll continue to do that with you.
Well,
So-
thank you very much. And that's all
And
I-
for everybody who's in attendance, you know, understand that since we have not had a secret determination, this is not the end of public hearing. It will be continued until we do get to that step.
That's fair
So
enough.
you will get another chance to, or maybe multiple chances
No,
to comment.
if everything is fine, I have no problem with it.
Okay.
Believe me, I welcome things to come in and do well. I just don't want it to impact my property to cost me aggravation in the end.
Sure, we understand.
All right.
Okay, thank
Thank
you.
you very much.
Anybody else in the public like to speak? Oh,
That's it.
All right.
We continue
Then
the
I-
public hearing to,
I believe it's the 16th of July.
I move we continue the public hearing till the 16th of July.
Thank you, Ken. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, that concludes that part. Let's move on to the next one then. We do have a situation in Hyde Park. We have something called a historic overlay district. For many, many people, they want to make relatively minor changes to their homes. It can be a porch, can be a pool, can be fencing, et cetera. And we actually have 3 of these tonight, and they do get looked at by the zoning administrator. If it is in a historic overlay district, it does then get referred to us as a planning board. But most times, I'll say 9 times out of 10, when the zoning administrator looks at it, she said she feels it will not have any impact, and she will issue a letter or recommendation to the planning board, and then we just proceed based on that and pass on this one. So I'm going to take the first one, which is Ambrose. Does anybody on the board here have any comments on that? We do have a letter that states that Tad believes that this should just be passed on by the planning board and positively. And do we have any comments then also from the consultants on any of these?
Nope.
We don't review these.
I know, I realize that, but I'm going to do it anyway.
But thank you for asking.
I want to make sure you realize that you appreciate it here. All right, let's move on to Ambrose. Who has that one?
I do. Site plan waiver at Town Code Section 108-9.4 C2, resolution number 14-19, whereas an application requesting a waiver of site plan has been made to the Town of Hyde Park Planning Board by Daniel and Amy Ambrose on June 5th, 2014, for property located at 7 Mansion Drive in the Town of Hyde Park. And whereas, now therefore be it resolved that the Town of Hyde Park Planning Board hereby waives site plan requirements for the file entitled Ambrose regarding the specific request as received on June 5th, 2014, and in the building permit application file for this project.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passed unanimously. Moving to the second one. GHANDI?
That'd be me.
Thank you.
Made that one easy for you.
Resolution number 14-20, whereas an application waiver for site plan has been made to the Town of Hyde Park Planning Board by David Freeman for Gary McDonald, who's representing Mirati GHANDI, on June the 5th, 2014, for property located at 4695 Albany Post Road in the Town of Hyde Park. And whereas, now therefore be resolved, the Town of Hyde Park Planning Board hereby waives the site plan requirements for the file entitled GHANDI Residence regarding this specific request as received June the 5th, 2014, in the building permit application file for this project.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, that takes care of number 2. I don't know if GHANDI is even here. You're set to go. And it does take 1 or 2 days sometimes to get the paperwork over to the building person, so. Okay, the last one here is Pritchard. And who has that?
I do. Site plan waiver, Town Code Section 108-9.4 C2, resolution number 14-21, whereas an application requesting a waiver of site plan has been made to the Town of Hyde Park Planning Board by Ron Pritchard on June 10th, 2014, for property located at 40 Mansion Drive in the Town of Hyde Park. Whereas, now therefore be it resolved that the Town of Hyde Park Planning Board hereby waives site plan requirements for the file entitled Pritchard regarding the specific request as received on June 10th, 2014, and in the building permit application file for this project.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Again, passed. You're set. Jen, who seconded yours?
Oh, mine
did.
did. I second.
Okay.
Mine, I don't know.
Okay.
We have second by Chan.
Hey.
but-
No,
Yeah, well,
the
then I
one
think
that
he was
Jan
talking about the one before that.
Oh, okay.
That's, I get confused too.
Yeah, second
Not easy.
and seconded,
Yeah,
Gandhi.
okay. We ready for an adjournment motion?
I am ready for an adjournment motion. There's yours.
I move we adjourn.
Second?
Wait, hold on.
All in favor?
Aye.
Oh.